Morning. This is much better. I had a talk planned for this morning, and then in the middle of the night I changed it. And so whatever's on your bulletin, it has nothing to do with what I'm about to say. If you're wondering about that illustration on there, that'll be covered in a future lesson. But what I'd like to talk about this morning is serendipity. And serendipity works both ways. It's like you're in the right place at the right time. Something's happened that is very, very good. It wouldn't have happened if you wouldn't have been there at exact that same time. But it also can be the other way. It's when something very, very bad happens, something that you didn't want, that you don't like, and it creates a lot of havoc in your life. So I want to talk about a serendipitous event in my life. And this was before I became a minister. I was going to Unity School taking classes to get into the ministerial program. And on the first day of school, I was taking a Bible study with Frank Judici. Many of you might remember him. And on the way out to Unity Village, I got a flat tire. It took me about an hour to figure out how to change it, and another half hour that convinced me I didn't know how. So I called a road service, and they came out, fixed my tire, and I went on to Unity Village. Well, when I got there, Betty was the person that signed people in, and she told me that since I missed the first class, I couldn't engage in that class for the entire term, that I would have to pick it up when it was offered in 6 months. In doing this, that put all of my plans back 6 months, meaning I'd have to wait another year to get into ministerial school. Well, I decided to go to the class anyway. Even though I wouldn't get credit for it, at least I could go and I could engage myself in whatever was going on because I'd already allotted my time for that. And so I waited till the class broke for a recess of some sort, and then when the rest of the students went in, I just walked in with them. As I did, I took a seat in the very back of the room next to a lovely young woman from Pennsylvania. And nobody seemed to notice me, that I wasn't there the first half. The person from Pennsylvania, his name was Beverly. Beverly and I became good friends. When she went home, we continued to write to each other, and she would come back occasionally to school. Well, fast forward 4 years. I'm graduating from ministerial school, and the day before I graduate, Beverly calls me up. She is working for Rosemary Fillmore Ray in a small church in Prairie Village. Many of you remember that church. It actually merged with this church in 1991. Anyway, she told me that Rosemary, who happened to be the granddaughter of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, the founders of the entire Unity movement, that Rosemary was open to having an associate minister. And Beverly had told Rosemary about me, and Rosemary wanted to meet me. So I thought this was great because I didn't have a job lined up. I wanted to stay in Kansas City because this is where my kids were. So I went out and I met Rosemary, a very, very graceful person. She just had a voice like velvet, and she was so mannerly. And after 10 minutes, she asked me when I could start. And I said, well, gosh, anytime. And she said, well, good. Could you type these letters for me? And she handed me a pad of scribbling that she had. Wasn't exactly what I had in mind when I went into ministerial school, but still, it was a job. Rosemary and I worked together for maybe 5 years, and it was the most beautiful experience I'd ever had. She became a mother, a sister, a best friend to me, and really groomed me ministerially. She introduced me to a lot of people because she was recognized as the heir to the Unity movement. And she eventually went back to Unity Village and became an ambassador for Unity, where she traveled all over the country and met people. Even after she left, it was called the Myrtle Fillmore Center in Prairie Village, she never relinquished her position as my boss. And she would call up on a regular basis, and it always started out, Duke, I really need you to do something for me. And I says, okay. And it was nothing like, can you pick up a quart of milk and drop it by? It was always like, I think you should bring all of the world leaders to Unity Village for a peace conference. And we'll settle this war thing once and forever. Or I think that you need to really do something about children in third world countries and then get them into an education system where they can move into higher education. I mean, huge projects. And she had no idea how to do it. She had no idea how the expense would be covered, but that was my assignment. Well, she called me about a month ago. And she says, Duke, I really need you to do something for me. And I says, yes, okay. She says, well, it's not going to be anytime soon, but I want you to plan my funeral because I know that if you don't do it, and if I don't give you explicit instructions, it's going to be done in a way that I don't like. And I said, okay. And so she, listed all the songs that she wanted and the people that she wanted to play. And my part, as far as giving the eulogy, she said, don't go over 90 seconds. And so basically I kind of became like a MC or a host for this grand celebration. Rosemary would spend her winters down in Jamaica. And on the first full moon of every year, myself and my good friend Tim Whitmer, we would go down. And we would stay at her house. And we had 5 days that were just absolutely glorious. And at some point, she would say, Duke, I really need you to do something for me. She says, you have to bring the people of Jamaica up from this impoverished state and get them to experience a greater lifestyle. And there's a Unity Church down there, and she says, Duke, I really need you to do something for me. The Unity Church here needs a new building, and I'd like you to help them find some land and raise some money to put that new building up. And it just went on and on and on. Well, we did the funeral. We laughed a lot about things that were going to take place. And a week later, she fell down and broke her hip. And she went to the hospital. Friday, I found out that she died. And it came as a complete shock for me because I saw her about a week or 10 days ago, and she was in good spirits, even though she broke her hip. And we sat in the hospital room, and we laughed, and we laughed. And she gave me her last, Duke, I really need you to do something for me. And it was another huge project that all of us put together. Couldn't complete 10% of it. But I nodded to her, and as always, I said, I'll do my best, Rosemary. Well, when I found out that she died, it occurred to me what an incredible figure she was in my life. She is probably one of the most important things that I've experienced in my life thus far. She had spirit, she had passion, she was so invested in the unity movement and so invested in unconditional love and peace throughout the world in raising people's living standards to higher levels. And I started thinking back about that. It's like when I got the flat tire, that was the worst possible thing that could happen at that time. And then I got to Unity Village and not being able to take that class and pushing all my plans back, it was like the worst possible thing that could happen to me at that time. But meeting Beverly and establishing that connection and having Beverly call me later and having me meet Rosemary and get the chance to work with her never would have happened if it wouldn't have been for that flat tire. I probably would have gotten to school in time. I probably would have taken the classes, got into a class beforehand, and who knows. But I bring this up because serendipity is things that happen in our life that at the time we just view as horrible or tragic or the worst possible thing that could happen. But later on down the road, as we look back, we see that those things were like essential stepping stones that led us to something that was miraculously good. And that's the way life is. Life always follows the path to higher good. If you're facing a problem or a challenge in your life, it's not easy. There's no doubt about that. But everybody here can look back over their lives and see at some point something happened that you deemed as tragic or horrible. But if it wouldn't have happened, you wouldn't have come to a place of higher good. Maybe you wouldn't have come to the place where you're at today. So to Rosemary Fillmore Ray, I salute. And I just want to thank her for everything that she did. And I know her good friend Phoebe Brown is sitting here. They go back 40 years probably. And many other people from the Myrtle Fillmore Center. It was actually the Myrtle Fillmore Center that transformed this church. When I was working over there as minister, I had a board of directors that was composed of 6 women. And they were all very astute and a great support system. Well, we began to grow in that particular facility. It was in a parking lot or a strip mall. And we needed a place to move to. And so we put some feelers out, and we got people committing a couple $100,000. We went out and began to look for locations to put the Myrtle Fillmore Center in. And at the same time, this church had fallen on some difficult times, and the congregation had dwindled, and there were some financial problems. And the IRS had put a lien on the building because they hadn't paid their employee taxes. So I called up the chairman of the board of Unity Temple, and I said, listen, I got people, I got money. You don't have people, you don't have money. I need more space, you got space. Why don't we just merge the 2 churches? She says, let me call you back. She called me back in 1 hour and said, you got a deal. I said, well, that's fine and dandy. And so we set the 1st January in 1991, and we actually married the 2 congregations on that day. We sent out wedding invitations that the 2 congregations would be married. And our only agreement was that we would accept each other unconditionally, and there wouldn't be us and them. There would just be one congregation. This took the board of directors from 12 people, who were men at Unity Temple, to 18, 6 women and 12 men. Now, one of the reasons why this church had dwindled in numbers is because it was very patriarchal to begin with, and it had gone through 8 ministers in 11 years. And every time a minister leaves, some people get mad. Some people decide this is a good time to church shop. Some people get hurt, and people leave. There's usually an interim minister that comes in, which means a minister that's not long-term, but is just going to manage the church until another minister is found. Also at that time, this goes back before when I was the secretary and I worked here, there's a very rigid view on homosexuality. Homosexuality couldn't be printed in any written form. The gays were able to meet, but it had to be under a secret code name called Lambda Auxiliary. And when Max Lasfer, the minister at that time, came forward and started allowing the gay people to come out of the closet, there was a lot of upset. And that led a lot of people to leave. And Max put it very, very bluntly to the board. He said, you know, if we're going to be unity, we're going to be unity. And if we're going to be exclusive and discriminatory, then you need to change the name of the building to Not Unity. And yeah. So that was the beginning of a whole new wave in this church, a whole new energy, a whole different environment. When the Myrtle Fillmore Center came over, it was primarily feminine energy based on what Rosemary had built and what she had done. And the board of directors were, as I said before, all women that had a strong feminine energy. And when that came into this church and met with the strong masculine energy and the patriarchy that was set in place, for instance, at that time, women couldn't be ushers. What they could do is make little crustless sandwiches for people after funerals. So when the two boards merged, there was kind of a collision of sort. But 6 months later, there were only 12 members left on the board. 6 had resigned, and there were 6 women and 6 men. And it was those women from the Myrtle Fillmore Center who brought Rosemary's energy into this place. Once we were here, we discovered an article in the newspaper where when this building was constructed, Charles Fillmore built it, and the name was Myrtle Fillmore Temple on the Plaza. He built it as a tribute to his wife. Charles died before the building was finished, and the good old boys sitting around a board table someplace said, we can't have a building like that dedicated to Myrtle and not one equally dedicated to Charles. So they changed the name of the building to Unity Temple in the Plaza. They gave Myrtle a chapel, and they gave Charles a chapel. So when the Myrtle Fillmore Center came back and moved in, it was kind of like Myrtle reclaiming what was actually hers. And it also shifted the energy to where it was more balanced, where it was that perfect balance of masculine and feminine that's in each and every one of us that makes up the spirit that pervades the universe. And that's when things really began to take off. Discriminations and prejudices went out the back door. There was an equality between men and women, people of every lifestyle, and people were attracted to that. Sometimes people come into the building and they say, I feel the energy. Every time I come here, I can feel the energy. And that is Charles Fillmore's energy, it's Myrtle Fillmore's energy, but more than anybody, it's Rosemary Fillmore Ray's energy that she invested so deeply in the Myrtle Fillmore Center that when it moved here, it just shifted the consciousness in an incredible way. So my point to you this morning is a very simple one. If something's happening in your life and you feel it's absolutely the worst thing that could happen, just trust in life, trust in the Spirit, trust in yourself, and know that you're going to move through that. And you're going to move into something that is so good, it wouldn't have happened without the thing that you deem bad. So take that thought into meditation. Take a moment to relax and just take a deep breath, slowly exhale. And as we move into meditation, let us all dedicate this meditation to Rosemary Fillmore Ray, a great spirit, lived a good life. And as we do so, just count down from 5 to 1. And each time, allow yourself to become more and more comfortable. Allow your heart to slow, allow your mind to slow down. And just listen to this music as a prelude to the meditation. We recognize that there is one power and one presence in the universe, one creative force, one spirit, and that spirit's within you. That spirit provides for you strength and wisdom, understanding, love, faith, hope, all the spiritual attributes you need to move confidently down your path of life. And as you do so, always move towards a higher level of good. The problems and challenges that come into your life are not stop signs. They're not meant to abolish your dreams. They're not meant to overload you with fear, anxiety, and stress. But they are part of life. They provide you with something. And like stepping stones, they always lead to a future that is good. As I moved into the silence this morning, just take a moment to think about yourself and your life. You're a good person. You have a good life. You're helping create a good world. In the silence.
Slowly begin to bring yourself back. And as I speak these words, make them your own and say them back to yourself. Peaceful mind. I am at peace with all the situations and circumstances in my life. Peaceful heart. I am at peace with all the people in my world. Peaceful spirit. I'm at peace with myself in the existence I'm living. Peaceful mind, peaceful heart, peaceful spirit. And so it is.